Welcome back, everybody, to this deep dive into The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Oh, yeah.
This book, it claims it's cracked the code on wealth.
Hmm.
It argues that there's like an exact science to getting rich no matter like who you are or where you come from.
Wow.
And I know what you're thinking.
What am I thinking?
An exact science to riches
Right.
sounds a bit far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
Especially because this book was written way back in 1910.
It definitely does raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so fascinating to dive into.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do these century-old ideas hold up in our modern world?
Right.
And are there nuggets of wisdom we can still glean from them?
Yeah.
Let's dive in and find out.
All right, so Wattles kicks things off by asserting that everyone
Everyone.
has a right to be rich.
Okay.
And he's not talking about just being a millionaire. He believes that true wealth is about having enough to live a truly fulfilling life, like in body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah, this was a pretty radical idea back then. And it still challenges some of the conventional thinking today. Wattles was pushing back against this idea that poverty was either a divine punishment or simply an unavoidable fact of life.
Right.
He was saying, no abundance is our birthright. And it's not just about material possessions. It's about having the resources to develop your full potential as a human being.
Interesting. And then he goes on to debunk what he calls poverty myths.
Poverty myths.
These beliefs that hold people back from achieving wealth.
Okay.
He tackles the idea that opportunity is limited, that there's only so much to go around.
Okay.
And if someone gets rich, it means someone else has to stay poor.
Right, like a zero-sum game kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating here is how he uses such vivid examples to illustrate his point.
Oh, really? Like what?
So, for example, he argues that there are enough building materials in the U.S. alone to construct a palace as grand as the Capitol building for every single family.
Wow.
And that with advanced farming techniques, we could produce enough food and clothing to provide for the entire world in luxury.
So he's really saying there's enough to go around.
Yes. Now, whether those calculations are still accurate today is debatable.
Yeah, right.
But the core idea is that the source of wealth is unlimited. And this is where we get to one of the most intriguing concepts in the book.
Ooh, intriguing.
The idea of formless substance.
Formless substance. I like that kind of way.
Already. Wattles describes it as this infinite intelligent energy that's the source of all creation.
Okay, so he's essentially saying, imagine a universal supply chain that's constantly generating new resources, new possibilities, new forms.
Interesting.
And the key to tapping into this infinite source is all about your thoughts.
Okay, now this is where things get a bit woo-woo for some people.
Woo, okay, I'm intrigued.
Wattles believes that our thoughts literally shape our reality.
Okay.
He even uses the example of a man who vividly imagines his dream house, and it eventually manifests in his life.
It does sound a bit like the law of attraction we hear so much about these days, right?
Right.
But let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
Wattles isn't just saying, wish for it and it will come.
Okay.
He emphasizes that it's about aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and actions with your desired outcome.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset of abundance and then taking purposeful steps toward your goals.
So it's not just about daydreaming. You have to actually do something.
But absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, Wattles is very clear that action is essential.
Okay.
But it has to be the right kind of action, guided by a clear vision and fueled by faith and gratitude.
Okay.
And this is where we'll start exploring some of the specific practices that he recommends in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Me too.
All right. So we've established that just wishing for wealth isn't enough, according to Wattles.
No.
You need to actually combine that with action.
Yeah.
But he's got like a specific way of going about this, right?
Yeah.
It's not your typical hustle harder kind of advice.
Exactly. Wattles is all about working smarter, not just harder. And it starts with cultivating the right mindset.
Okay.
He calls it living in a certain way.
Certainly.
Yeah. And one of the most striking things that he suggests is avoiding negativity at all costs. Like seriously, he even says to steer clear of news about poverty or anything that contradicts your vision of abundance.
Wait, so no doom scrolling?
Basically.
That's a tough one for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But I guess his point is that dwelling on negativity just brings more of it into your life.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
He's saying guard your mental space fiercely. Don't let fear and doubt take root because those can sabotage your creative potential. Now, you could argue that this approach risks making you a little bit out of touch with real-world problems.
Right.
But Wattles would likely say that focusing on solving your own financial challenges first puts you in a stronger position to help others later on.
Right. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
So besides avoiding negativity, what are some of the actions that Wattles recommends?
Well, he's big on aligning your actions with your vision.
Okay.
But he also emphasizes that you shouldn't rely on willpower alone to force external circumstances to change. It's more about using willpower to master your own thoughts and behaviors.
So it's more about internal control rather than trying to manipulate the outside world.
Exactly. And he stresses the importance of taking action. And now.
Okay.
Not waiting for the perfect opportunity or for things to magically fall into place. He has this great line, do every day all that can be done that day.
Wow. At first glance, that kind of seems to go against that whole work smarter, not harder idea.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, are you just supposed to be busy all the time?
Well, I think there's a nuance there.
Yeah.
It's not about mindless busyness.
Right.
He's drawing a distinction between striving and hurrying.
Okay.
Hurrying, he says, comes from a place of fear and lack.
I see.
Striving, on the other hand, is about moving steadily and purposefully toward your goals with a sense of inner peace and knowing.
So it's about being fully present in each task and focusing on quality over quantity.
Precisely. It's about aligning your actions with your vision and infusing each task with purpose. Which brings us to another key aspect, choosing the right vocation.
Okay.
Wattles believes that ideally you should do what you're naturally good at.
Okay.
But he acknowledges that sometimes passion trumps talent.
So even if you're not a pro at it yet, that desire itself might be a sign of untapped potential.
He actually says desire is a manifestation of power.
Wow, I love that.
It's such an empowering idea.
Yeah.
If you deeply desire something, it suggests you have the inherent capacity to achieve it.
Okay, but what if you're stuck in a job that isn't your dream job, but you're using it as a stepping stone?
Yeah.
Like, how would Wattles approach that?
He's got specific advice for that situation. He says, hold the vision of yourself in the job you want while you ACT with faith and purpose on the job you have, and you will certainly get the job you want.
So it's about excelling in your current role, not just to please your boss, but as a way to demonstrate your capabilities and attract better opportunities.
Yes, he talks about radiating an aura of advancement. So everyone you interact with, from colleagues to clients, senses this energy of growth and success.
Interesting.
It's not about bragging or being arrogant. It's about subtly conveying a sense of abundance and progress in everything you do.
So it's like you're becoming a magnet for success by embodying the qualities of success.
Exactly.
But there's one thing I'm curious about.
What's that?
Wattles doesn't seem to talk much about practical financial strategies like saving, investing, or budgeting.
Right.
All those things that we usually associate with building wealth.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's true. He focuses almost entirely on the mental and spiritual side of wealth creation.
Okay.
He doesn't give specific financial advice.
Yeah.
And I think there's something refreshing about that.
Yeah.
It forces you to consider a broader definition of wealth.
So it's less about a specific dollar amount and more about a state of mind.
Yes.
A way of being in the world that naturally attracts abundance.
Exactly. And while we might need to update some of his ideas for our modern context, there's timeless wisdom in his emphasis on a positive mindset, focusing on growth and taking purposeful action. These are principles you can apply to any area of life, not just finances.
That's a great point, but I also feel like there's a flip side to all this positivity he talks about.
Okay.
He seems quite insistent that you have to completely let go of any beliefs that contradict his philosophy.
Yeah.
No doubting, no dwelling on past failures. Is that realistic?
It's a tall order. No doubt. He even cautions against getting caught up in social or political movements that might distract you from your own personal growth.
Really?
Not because he's advocating apathy,
Okay.
but because he believes focusing outward can sometimes dilute your own creative power.
Interesting.
He'd probably say, get your own house in order first. Then you'll be in a better position to make a real difference in the world.
So it's not about ignoring problems, it's about approaching them from a position of strength and clarity.
Precisely. And he has this really radical take on failure. He doesn't believe it actually exists.
What?
He says every setback is actually a redirection toward something better, an opportunity for growth.
That's a powerful way to look at it, but it requires a lot of trust in the process.
It does. And he even suggests being grateful for setbacks
Wow.
because they might be protecting you from something worse. Now, I realize that might sound a bit hard to swallow if you've just experienced a major financial loss or career disappointment.
Right.
But the underlying principle is resilience.
Okay.
Don't let setbacks define you. Learn, adapt, and keep moving forward with faith and gratitude.
He also emphasizes that you don't need to have all the answers or have every step perfectly mapped out.
Right.
Just trust the process, take aligned action, and the universe will provide the necessary resources and opportunities.
It's an empowering message, but it definitely requires a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You have to believe there's a force greater than yourself working in your favor, orchestrating events to bring your vision into reality.
Correct. So there's a lot to unpack here.
For sure.
Wattles is basically saying, trust the process, focus on your vision, and take inspired action. But does it actually work?
Good question.
What's the bottom line here?
Well, Wattles makes a bold claim. He says, no man or woman who follows these instructions steadily, perseveringly, and to the letter will get rich. Now, we're not here to endorse or debunk that statement.
Right.
But what we can do is explore these principles and see how they might be relevant to your own journey towards a more abundant life.
Okay.
And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive.
Ooh.
Where we'll connect these ideas to our modern world and consider some key takeaways for you, the listener.
Well, we've spent this deep dive exploring Wallace D. Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. And it's been quite a journey.
It has.
This book is full of intriguing ideas and bold claims.
Yeah.
Blending practical advice with what some might call a spiritual approach to wealth creation.
Yeah, and I think what makes it so compelling is how it speaks to this deep human desire for abundance and fulfillment. It's not just about money, you know?
Right.
It's about living a life of purpose and meaning, having the resources to pursue your dreams and make a positive impact on the world.
I agree. But I have to admit, some parts of Wattles' philosophy kind of make me wonder how they apply in today's world.
Oh, really?
Like, he talks about this universal creative force that's constantly shaping reality. But where does free will fit into that? Yeah. If our thoughts have so much power, does that mean we're responsible for everything that happens to us, good and bad?
That's a big question.
It is.
And one that Wattles doesn't really address directly.
Yeah.
He keeps his focus on the practical application of his principles.
Okay.
He might say, don't get bogged down in the philosophical debates. Focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions.
So he's all about taking responsibility for your own experience.
Yes. And that's where his emphasis on gratitude comes in. It's not just about being thankful for what you have, but for what's on its way. It's about cultivating this unwavering belief that abundance is your birthright and acting accordingly.
He even says to be grateful for those who seem to have it all, the so-called plutocrats and trust magnates.
Right.
He argues that they're playing a necessary role in the grand scheme of things.
Interesting.
Now, that's a tough one to swallow for a lot of people, especially given the levels of wealth inequality that we see today.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging perspective. But Wattles might argue that harboring resentment towards the wealthy only keeps you trapped in a mindset of scarcity. He'd probably say, instead of focusing on what others have, focus on your own vision.
Okay.
And trust that the universe is working to bring it into being.
So it's about shifting your energy from comparison and envy to creation and possibility.
Exactly. And that's where his concept of the advancing man comes in. It's not about ruthlessly climbing over others to get to the top. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, radiating success and inspiring others to do the same.
So he's talking about a win-win scenario where everyone benefits from your advancement, like a ripple effect. As you grow and prosper, you create opportunities for others to do the same.
And this ties back to his belief in a universal creative force that connects us all. He's suggesting that when you align yourself with this force, you become a conduit for abundance.
Right.
Not just for yourself, but for the world around you.
Okay, so to bring this back to you, our listener.
Yes.
What can you take away from this deep dive into the science of getting rich?
Well,
while some of Wattles' ideas might feel a bit outdated, his core message is surprisingly relevant today.
I agree.
He reminds us that we have more power to shape our reality than we often realize. It starts with our thoughts, our beliefs, and our attitudes.
He encourages us to cultivate a mindset of abundance, to focus on our goals with unwavering faith, and to take action that's aligned with our vision.
And maybe there's more to this idea of a science to getting rich than we initially thought. Perhaps by opening ourselves to the possibility of a universal creative force working in our favor, we can unlock a level of potential we never thought possible.
That's a great point.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
we leave you with this question.
Okay.
What if Wattles was right?
Mm-hmm.
What if there is a science to getting rich, and it starts with aligning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions with a vision of abundance?
It's definitely something to think about.
It might be an experiment worth trying. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep believing in the power of possibility.